Hi, I'm Zoe Midler. I'm the teacher librarian at Flagstaff Academy. I'm also a member of the Google Apps Specialist team, and I'm a Google certified teacher. This video tutorial is designed for those participating in the Novice Google Apps for EDU Parent Workshop Gmail session. The tutorial will cover prerequisite skills that we will build upon during our actual workshop. We strongly recommend that participants watch this tutorial in advance of the Gmail workshop and become familiar with these basic Google application functions. These foundational Gmail skills that we're going to cover today will include how to log into your Google account, how to locate the Gmail tab, enable Gmail Labs, adjust your Gmail view, set general settings, select a theme, and compose a message. So let's get started. Just so you can get an idea of where I'm at right now, I'm in a browser, I'm in the Chrome browser, and it is my preferred internet browser. Google Chrome will ensure that the most optimal Google Apps experience. Google doesn't optimize for other browsers the way it does for Chrome because Google owns Chrome. So there are certain features and functions that may not work as expected when you're running Firefox or Internet Explorer or Safari. So we strongly recommend, especially for our parents at home when students are using maybe your computer or if they have their own device, that the Chrome browser be installed, and whenever you're working in Google Apps, you're running through the Chrome browser. So I'm going to start off by just logging into my Google account, and I would just type google.com. That came up for me. And I'm going to go right over here to the sign in. And I'm going to sign in with my, I'm going to do my dummy test account, because I want to be able to test some functionality here on sort of a brand new account, so you can kind of experience what that's like to set up your account. Put in my password. Oh, I keep forgetting to type the one thing I need to type. Okay, hopefully that's going to get us in. There we go. Okay. So even Google certified teachers have sometimes problems remembering their passwords, just to show you. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get into our mail. And the way that you get to mail is you're going to notice there's a black bar along the top, and that is your Google tool belt. And I'm going to click on Mail, which is right here. And that's going to load in my mail, my inbox. So one of the first things that I want to do is I just want to kind of go over how this is set up. This setup that you're seeing here is kind of new for Google. They just changed this over the summer, but what Google's attempting to do is help you sort of parse and control your inbox. So there's a primary bucket, a social bucket, promotions, updates, and forums. And when you click over each of the words, it kind of gives you a better description of what's happening there. So my primary inbox are those person-to-person conversations that are happening sort of with those contacts that I talk to most frequently. And Google learns over time who those persons are, who those contacts are, and dumps them into my primary part of my inbox. It's sort of like the most important messages. I've also turned on social because I do get a lot of updates from a lot of the social networking places that I'm a part of. So I like those notifications to go there. I don't want them to go into my primary inbox. I get a lot of ads or deals or offers because I work with a lot of vendors, so I like those to end up in promotions and not, again, clutter up my main inbox, my primary inbox. I get updates when people accept invitations from me or anything that's sort of an auto-generated nature, receipts, bills, that kinds of stuff, or someone's sending something back to me. Like if I book a flight on Expedia, I'll get the confirmation through updates. And then I also belong to a lot of online groups and lists and listservs and forums, and when there's activity there, I tend to get digests from those, and my digests will go into forums. Now, if you don't like that look, if that's too busy for you, you can click on the plus sign right over here, and you can actually turn off buckets you don't want. So you can say, I don't need promotions and updates, but I would like to get primary, social, and forums. I just leave the starred messages on because some people do use the star system, and it doesn't really matter to me one way or the other, so I just leave it clicked. And if I hit save here, then you'll see that it'll take me down to just the buckets that I asked for. And I can definitely add in those buckets or categories again if I want them. So you can control that completely on your own. That's very customizable. The other thing that I want to talk about is how you can add even more customization. And what we want to do is we want to go over here to the gear. The gear is our friend. So I want to click on the gear and I want to go to settings, which is right here. And when you go to settings, what you're going to notice is a lot more options. There's general, labels, inbox, accounts, filters, forwarding, pop and IMAP, chat, web clips, labs, offline, and themes. So what I want to talk about is we're going to just click on labs. Labs are a whole bunch of features that the Google engineers work on over time, and they offer them to us through labs. And this really is a testing ground for experimental features. So the plus side of that is we get to test a lot of really cool things and sort of be beta testers for all these new kinds of things that the engineers at Google are thinking about where Gmail is concerned. And the bad part is that sometimes labs suddenly disappear. So you might get attached to something, but because of a lack of use or Google decides not to invest in that particular lab anymore, then they'll just get rid of it. And typically what happens though is that the lab is so popular that they move it out of labs and put it into our general settings. And you'll see an example of that in a minute. So what I do is I'll go through here and I enable a lot of things because I just don't know when I'm going to use something and when I'm not, so it's better just to enable it so when I do decide to learn about it, it's already enabled for me. So I definitely enable gadgets, app search, authentication icon for verified senders. Sometimes you'll get things from, well, like their example is here is eBay, and if your Google inbox sees that logo right away, that icon, they'll know it's an okay thing for them to put into your inbox. Auto advance, when I'm reading a message and I want to go to the next one in the inbox, I can just say, okay, enable that so I can auto advance. Canned responses, hugely important. I really like canned responses. The reason I like canned responses so much is because when you start to have messages that you're sending over and over again, the same message over and over again, you can actually can it and just copy and paste it into your email. And we'll talk about that more when we get to a Ninja Gmail session, because that's definitely an advanced feature. Custom keyboard shortcuts, I don't enable them because I don't build my own custom keyboard shortcuts. I use the shortcuts provided to me from Google, so I don't enable that. If you're someone who likes to build your own custom keyboard shortcuts, then by all means enable that. I enable Flickr previews because I do have a lot of people who are on Flickr and send me images, and I want to make sure they show up in my Gmail. Google Calendar Gadget. This is something where you can get a little snapshot of your daily calendar sort of embedded into your Gmail view. I find that to be a little too busy for me, and calendar is really simple to get to. It's right up here on your tool belt where I'm pointing with my mouse. So this is a personal preference thing, so I'm going to disable that. I don't really want the Google Calendar Gadget viewable. It just sort of clutters my window. Google Docs Preview in Mail, I'm going to totally enable that because that allows me to get a little snapshot of the documents that's being shared with me as a Google Doc, and I can get a preview of it, or I can actually open it in a new window. So that'll actually appear in the mail when it comes through from the sender. And that's just a really nice little feature to help me sort of decide if that's something I need to react to right away. And like I said, I can get a preview of it first. Google Maps in Mail, Previews in Mail, that's fine. I'll enable that. A lot of times people are sending me directions, and it's nice to have that preview right in Mail. Google Voice Player. I do enable this, although I have to say I don't use Google Voicemail very much, and I hope to do some more in the future. So this would be definitely a Ninja or advanced feature we'll talk about later when we cover Gmail Ninja kind of tactics. And mark as read button, sure. So this is nice because after I read something, I'll know that I've actually dealt with it, or at least it's been viewed, and that's important for me. Multiple inboxes. So you can actually have more than one inbox going at a time. I don't do this because I think my head would explode, but some people really like it. So you can learn more about multiple inboxes in our Ninja sessions, but for now I'm just enabling it because it's nice, like I said, to have that so when I'm ready to and do the multiple inboxes, it'll be ready to go. I really don't do this very often, and so it's not a feature you have to turn on. Picasa previews in mail, I will definitely enable that. That's sort of like my Flickr. Pictures in chat, I really like to see When I'm having a chat session with somebody, I really like to be able to see their picture. It's nice to be able to do that, so I'll definitely, if they have a picture, I'll enable it so I can see who I'm talking to. A preview pane is nice. I will definitely enable that so I can see my mail kind of side by side, and that's something we'll turn on in a minute through another setting, but I want to enable it here. Quick links. This is kind of a nice thing to turn on so that you can quickly see where you've been and how you're going to get back to URLs. It's sort of like a bookmarkable kind of thing. It's not, I don't really use it very frequently, but some people really like it, so I'm just going to go ahead and enable it. I really, really like a quote selected text. I'm going to enable that one, and basically that allows me to highlight very specific text in a message and then hit the reply function or hit R for reply, and it will carry that piece of selected text right into my reply. So I really like that function a lot. Right side chat, things can get kind of busy in your Gmail window, so I like to break up the monotony, so I'll send chat over to the other side. So my window is solidly Gmail, email in the middle, and then I have a lot of things sort of happening on the sidelines. Smart labels. I'm going to go ahead and enable this because I want to sort of help Google figure out where to put the different messages that come in my different buckets. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that. Undo send, hugely important. Have you ever typed up a message and you sent it and you thought, oh, wait a minute, I want to get that message back? Well, this will let you do that. So you can send the message, but there'll be a little function that comes up. It'll say, you know, right now you can undo that and kind of grab that message back. And unread message icon, I do like this. It gives you a little number up by your Gmail icon, your little envelope there that tells you how many messages are still outstanding that you haven't read. And that's really kind of a cool way to kind of a quick glance kind of thing to see where you're at. Especially if you're having a really busy day. You know what you're kind of going to be looking forward to. Yelp previews in mail, this is a personal preference thing. If somebody sends you something from a Yelp, any kind of listing or rating, it'll show up. I've disabled it. If I need any Yelp information, I'll just go to Yelp and get it, and I don't really have a lot of people sending me that data, so I'm not going to turn that on. I'm going to leave it disabled, but you can certainly turn it on if you like. Once you have clicked on all the labs that you think you might want to use, you're just going to hit Save Changes. And so now Google's going to save those changes, and then when I go back, it's going to reload my email, and you're going to see how some of the changes actually impacted the look and the feel of the Gmail experience for me and in my inbox. All right, so what's happened here is I've got my mail nice and centered. I've got my tabs at the top. I've moved my chat window over here. So if I had right now, the dummy test account doesn't have a lot of people associated with it, but typically, and this is something you'll see later in the workshop, this whole entire side would be filled with people who are available for chat in my contact list. So it kind of broke up the monotony, like I said, of putting everything on one side or the other. So I have my different inbox and important and sent mail and all my sort of big categories over here, and then on this side I would have my chat. So the next thing that we can do to adjust how our Gmail looks or our view is you can come up here to this little icon right here, and you can decide that you might want to organize your Gmail a little differently, its view. So a no split view is exactly what I have right now. There's no split view. Everything just runs in a continual list here for me. If I decide to do a vertical split, it's going to take my messages and kind of organize them a little differently. So when I click on a message, the message actually appears side by side. Some people really like this view. For me, it's a little confusing. It's a little busy because I like to be able to see that list a little differently. It's just kind of what I'm used to. Some people do a horizontal split, and that's where after you read messages, they'd actually, so if I click here, the message would appear right below. So that's the difference between the horizontal and the vertical split. The other thing I do have to point out to you is I'm in a personal Gmail account, not in an EDU account, so you're going to see ads pop up occasionally for me, and that's because I'm not in an ad-free account. Our students, our Google Apps for Education environment does not serve ads, so there are no ads when students go online within their Gmail environment. So I'm going to click this back to a no split view because I kind of like to see everything in sort of succession here, and that's just a personal preference. The next thing I want to talk about are settings. Again, the gear is our friend. So I'm going to click right over here and I'm going to go back to settings just like before when we were in labs. Except this time I'm going to come right down here. I'm actually already there on the first tab, which is general settings. And I'm basically looking through these general settings just to make sure everything's kind of the way I want things to be when I'm dealing with my mail. So probably a lot of these things might have started out as labs first, but they got pulled over into just sort of default general things associated with Gmail. I'm not going to worry. My country code obviously is United States. Conversations per page are 50. That's all I'll ever see in one Gmail sort of page as I'm flipping through them. 250 contacts per page. That seems reasonable. I really don't mess with it. I leave it alone. Always display external content such as images sent by trusted senders. Absolutely. And that would include those things like the Flickr and the Picasa images and icons. Always use HTTPS for my browser connection. Absolutely. Auto advance after achieving, deleting, muting a conversation. I like to go to the next or the newer conversation. I don't want to go back in the previous, and I don't go back to the thread list. I just keep it always advancing to the next conversation in the list. Default reply behavior is always reply, not reply to all. You want to make sure that you're doing reply to all is something that should be done not on a regular basis. You want to make sure that that's a conscious decision that you make versus having it be a default behavior. So I make sure my default behavior is just reply to the individual who sent me the message. And we can talk about how you can make reply all work later as you're dealing with individual messages that you're composing. This is the default style for how your mail will look, and you can change things here. You can decide that you want your font to be Verdana. You can make it so it's always large. You can make it a green if you like. I prefer black. And so this is how you control the text, what your text will always look like. And I'm going to change that back to normal. And I'm going to change this back to trebuchet. So you can kind of play with this and decide how you want your text to look. Conversation view is on for me. I like to keep all my messages grouped together based on conversation. It's sort of that thread idea. Send and archive. I do show the send and archive button in my reply because sometimes after I've sent the message, I simply want to archive the message now. I don't want to have it appear in my inbox anymore. And so by archiving a message, I'm moving it into a sort of a big pool of all of my messages. It's not getting deleted. I can still search for it and find it, but it's sort of in a general archive. Enable undo send. This is the one I was talking about earlier. So it looks like this was a lab that got moved over into general settings, and maybe they haven't reconciled the two yet, but I turn both the lab on and I turn on the setting for this. So again, I can retrieve a message. I have 10 seconds after a message has been sent to retrieve it and make changes to it if I need to. I mark a conversation as read after 3 seconds in the preview pane. I don't really bother with stars too much. I know there are people who really like to use stars. I find that they confuse me because I already have those sort of major buckets for dealing with my email. You know, I've got primary and promotion and update and forums. So I know some people do like to use stars. I know one person uses stars to indicate that there's a message that requires a more lengthy response than they can do at that particular time. So it's a way to remind themselves that they need to spend a little more time on that particular email. Again, this is a personal preference thing, and we can definitely cover stars and how to use them when we do our ninja session on Gmail. Desktop notifications, I keep them off. I don't like a little box that comes up in the corner down here to tell me every time a new message appears in my Gmail. I think that's annoying. If you like that, you can ask that to be turned on, but I just say I don't need mail notifications. That's why I've turned on the little thing up here at the top to tell me if I have any new messages. I get a little number up here versus having something pop up at me. Keyboard shortcuts are on. I do like to use Google keyboard shortcuts. That would include things like, hitting the letter R for reply or C for compose. Those are all the little shortcuts, and I'm trying to use keyboard shortcuts more often now. Those aren't the custom keyboard shortcuts. These are the ones that Google has developed, and we'll talk about those a little later. I leave my button labels as icons, not as text. I might want to select a picture that everyone can see so you can see who I am. And the way that you do that is you would just say select picture, and then you'd be given the chance to browse out to your computer to choose a file. So for instance, for me, I have a picture that I use on all of my social media sites, like Facebook or LinkedIn, and it's the picture that just sits on my desktop. It's a small file, and I can just use that to upload an image. So you could do that too. And again, it's really nice when you're in Gmail or you're chatting to have your picture actually be present so people know who they're talking to. People widget, I do display information about participants on the right of each conversation, so I can see a little bit of information about somebody when I'm actually engaged in a conversation with them. Create contacts for autocomplete. I do like this, so as soon as I create a message and send it, the person I'm sending that to will automatically be added to my contacts. I can always go in and delete them if I never talk to them again, but it's nice not to have to repeat the typing all the time. Important signals for ads. So this is your chance to tell Google that you don't want to get a lot more ads. Basically, they want you to go in and fill out some information about yourself so that they can serve you ads that would be meaningful to you. The easiest thing to do is just click on this, and when you get out there, there's a button at the bottom that says opt out. And if you say opt out, it will basically not include you in this process. So you can just click opt out, and that will reduce the amount of ads that you're definitely seeing. So it's nice that Google at least allows us to opt out of that process. It's really, I think, very helpful. So on that one, you can just opt out. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, signature. So it's always a nice thing to be able to create a signature for your emails. And I have filled out some stuff here, so I would put like my name and my first name and my last name. I would maybe possibly put my address, the name of my company, or name of my company, and then my address. Yeah, we might want to change that, so I might say name of company goes here. So I guess one way to look at this would be, I would put Zoe Midler, teacher librarian, and I'm sure you've seen this on my mails that I sent to you, Flagstaff Academy. I might put the address, I might put my Twitter address here, I might put my G+, my Google Plus address here, so people know how to get to me on social media. Sometimes people put quotes or some kind of image or something down here. You can do whatever you want. You can set the way this is going to look. I'm going to say this should be Trebuchet, so if I just highlight everything and then say Trebuchet, it'll change the font. I can make it large if I want to. I can make it bold. I can change its color. I can create a hyperlink, so if I want people to email me, I could just click right here and I could do mail to so that would make that link in my signature hyperlink, so people could click right on it to send me an email if they want to. Of course, they could hit reply as well. I insert the signature before quoted text in replies above the, so actually I'm going to click that off because I want my signature always to appear at the very sort of end of my note, kind of way down on my page, so I don't have to keep moving it all the time. Personal indicators, I do like to show them. This tells me when a message has been sent directly to me. And I was sent to my address, but I wasn't on a mailing list, and a double arrow sent only to me. So messages sent to my address, but I wasn't on a mailing list, and then something sent directly to me. It's just a way for me to kind of quickly glance at my mail and understand that was something that was directed specifically at me, so it has a little more importance perhaps. I do show snippets. I like to see a little bit about the mail before I actually respond to it. It's just kind of a little preview. Vacation responder is a really great thing, and we'll talk more about that in an advanced session, but the idea is that you could let people know when you're out of the office. So if you get a piece of email, there's a sort of a canned response that goes out to them and says that, you will be out of the office from this time to this time and replying to email on such and such a date when you return. And then outgoing messages, I use the default text encoding for outgoing messages. That's something that is a default, and I just go with the default on there. Okay, and then I'm going to say save changes just like we did on labs. All right, so that's all set up. So I'm basically doing a lot of things to get my mail, my Gmail, my inbox the way I want it to look and the way and how I want things to behave. The other thing you can do is if you want, you can set your theme. And if you click right here on themes, again, we're going to go to the gear. Gear is our friend. Go to themes. You can pick from a lot of existing themes if you like to give yourself sort of a background. So for instance, I might say, you know, this pebble thing looks really cool. It's very Zen-like. It'd be nice to see that around my mail. You can also decide to upload an image of your own. If you go to custom themes and you say either light or dark, you can click light. And then you can actually browse out on your own computer for perhaps an image that you are interested. So I want to say change my background image here. And then I can go to upload photos, and I can look for a photo on my computer that I want to put in here. And I'm going to cancel that right now. This was a custom theme I had done before. This is an image of Google Teacher Academy in Chicago this summer that I attended. I prefer a very non-busy background. I like things to be really clean and simple, so I'm just going to go with light here and get back to a nice clean interface for me. I prefer that. So that was themes. Now if I go back to my inbox, the last thing we're going to cover is how to compose a message. So it's really easy. You can just click on the compose button, or you can type the letter C, and that'll bring up a compose box. And as you can see, here's my signature that I put into my mail that we did it. I'm always going to have these little lines right here that kind of break up my signature from the body of my message. And Google pops up this little window so that you can type a message, but if you prefer to work in a larger window, you just click right here and it'll blow it up for you. So I'm going to send a message to K. Burnett at flagstaffacademy.org, and the subject is going to be Novice Presentation Workshop. And I'm just going to put a note in here, right here. Kelly, looks like you will have a full house for your novice presentation workshop. Anything you want to flip for this session? And basically what I'm asking Kelly is if there's anything, like would she like to produce a video prior to her session to sort of take on some of those basic features and functions in presentation that our participants could view and review before they attend the actual workshop. Now there's some things I can do here. If you look down here at the bottom, you're going to see I've got send button, and I have formatting options. That's what I'm hovering over. So I could say, you know what, that looks a little small to me, so I think I'm going to kind of make this a little bigger so I can change that. I can say, you know what, I'm going to kind of mess with Kelly a little bit, and I'm going to turn everything blue. I could decide that I want to give her a link to her presentation. So I can take any text and highlight it with my mouse, and I can come right down here, and if I hover right down here on the second part of this toolbar, I'll see a link. So if I say insert link, I can put a URL here, and that would make that text hyperlink to whatever I wanted to link it to. So that's kind of nice to be able to do. It's a kind of a shortcut, and I like that. And also sometimes when you have to put big fat URLs and emails, it just looks really ugly, and that's kind of a more clean approach. So this toolbar down here is really your friend, and like the gear, and you can make a lot of changes and do things. You can add attachments, you can add images here, you can do emoticons, you can include and insert an invitation to an event or something. So this is something to definitely play around with, but that's a basic message. And when I'm ready to send, I just hit the send button. And when I hit send, what you're going to notice is it says, oh, it's been sent, undo. Oh yes, I definitely didn't mean to send that to Kelly. I meant to send that to somebody else. And then I get my message back, and I can decide what I want to do with it because I had the undo turned on. So I'm just going to go ahead and trash this message. I don't want to keep it. I'm discarding my draft right here. If I decided not to send this mail, all I'd have to do is click on the X, and if I click on the X, it says save and close. So it's not going to get rid of this piece of email. It's going to stick it into my drafts folder, and it's going to save it in case I want to send it some other time. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. So I'm going to click on it, and now what you're going to see over here is there's a folder called drafts. And when I click on drafts, there's that message for Kelly, still waiting for me to do something with it, possibly send it or delete it. So I'm just going to go ahead and click off of it again, and I'm going to go back to my inbox. And that concludes those basic Gmail functions that I wanted to review with all of the participants for our Gmail session. Again, you should hopefully play with some of these things prior to attending the session. You can't break anything, don't worry about it. We can always fix things when we see you at our session. So have a lot of fun playing around with your Google Gmail setup and customizing it for however you want it to look and what feels right for you. And again, if you have any questions or you've set something and you don't know how to undo it, just let us know when we see you. Thanks, and we'll see you very soon at the Gmail for Novice session.